Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sedona International Film Festival. I'm your host, Carol Kahn. We are celebrating our 31st anniversary, and with that comes, we'd like to thank our title sponsors, Mercedes-Benz, Northern Arizona Healthcare, BMO Bank, Linda Goldenstein Gallery, the Kling Family Foundation, Tlaquepaque, and the list goes on, especially our hoteliers, restaurateurs, and all of our volunteers who year after year contribute to this amazing festival. And part of this festival always is the filmmakers. We call it the Filmmakers Film Festival because we love having them in here. We enjoy them. They're always here in this media room and out and about, and they bring wonderful films all the time for us to watch. So I'd like to introduce to you two filmmakers from the Film Anxiety Club. Please introduce yourselves.
I'm Wendy Lobel, and I'm the director and one of the producers of the film.
Okay.
I'm Baron Vaughn, and I guess I'm one of the subjects. I guess I'm one of the subjects in the film.
So basically, you're one of the comedians in the film.
Yes, I am.
All right, and the film is about anxiety, right? So kind of set the stage a little bit about the film.
Yeah, it's about anxiety, our common experience of anxiety through the eyes of comedians, and how they're dealing with it, how they're trying to get from anxious to calm or calmer, and it's very funny. And it's also sort of an intimate, honest look at anxiety.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So talk to me about anxiety. It's hard to imagine being a comedian and standing up in front of all these places that you would have any kind of anxiety.
Yeah, well, most of the anxiety happens when we're not on stage. It's it basically goes right up into the moment we're stepping on stage, and it starts right again the moment we get off the stage. A lot of the times, the stage is the place where we feel the freest, and a lot of the times, I think it's because it's the place where we get to process a lot of these feelings,
Wow, yeah.
And we get to process it out loud, and when the audience laughs, that's one of those signals, one of those things that lets us know that what we're saying is relatable, that we're not alone in what we're feeling or what we're experiencing.
What if they don't laugh?
Then we will never stop thinking about it. We will obsess about it. It's one of these things because yes, obviously that's what we want is we want laughter, and it's a common trope that comedians will fixate on. We'll have an audience of 500 people laughing, and one person in the front is just sitting there like this, and we'll fixate on that person. 9 times out of 10, that person who never laughed will come up to us after the show and be like, "Hey, that was really funny. I had a great time." And we're like, "What?" So you never know why
Yes.
someone's not laughing.
Right. What about a heckler? What do you feel like about that?
Hecklers are, there's, a lot of different kinds of hecklers. For me, that causes a lot of anxiety. Crowd work has become very popular these days. There's a lot of comedians who are gaining followers and recognition from posting crowd work videos. I never set out to do crowd work videos, or crowd work, I should say, but when someone interferes or has something to say, then there's no way that I can't address it. Hecklers, sometimes it's people who are just had one too many, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's people who they can't be quiet. They can't sit there, and that's their anxiety. They're like, why aren't I talking? So they have to chime up for some reason. But it's always a mixed bag. A roll of the dice what you're going to get when it comes to a heckler.
And what kind of comedy do you perform?
Well, that's the hardest question I've ever been asked. I do think it is the mission of the comedian to figure that out. Like, we spend our whole career trying to figure out what the heck is it that we even want to talk about. I would say that what I focus on is, yes, I talk about mental health a lot, talk about just, what goes on through my mind as we walk through our days, as we have these everyday experiences, as we overanalyze interactions or, things that happened to us in the past and what that means today. I'm talking a lot about family right now. I'm a parent of 2 young boys, and so I'm talking a lot about what it means to be a parent when I feel like I wasn't parented as a child. So I'm seeing my own childhood through their eyes in a way. So that's kind of like a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about right now.
Right. Okay. And in your experience in dealing with a multitude of comedians, what did you hear any different stories? Are they all pretty much the same? What has been your experience with that?
Well, as somebody who's very familiar with anxiety, one of my takeaways was that we're all experiencing shades of the same thing. I would say there certainly were variations. I mean, there's some of the comedians suffer with social anxiety. Some of them panic disorder. Generalized anxiety. Having intrusive thoughts. So there were different aspects of anxiety, but a lot of similarities. In some cases, I would say what Baron said about being the most comfortable on the stage, for the most part, I would say that was pretty consistent, that the comedians, one of the comedians said, he's very comfortable on stage, but then when he goes off stage and if he has to talk to a fan, that's where the anxiety comes up, and similar to what you said. So, that was something that was surprising to me, how comfortable they all feel on stage. And I think that's one of the most surprising things that viewers are curious about before they see the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Because as you're talking, I'm thinking, and I even have a friend who can speak to an audience of like 3,000 people or even 10,000 people and not miss a beat, right? Not miss a beat, but to talk one-on-one with someone, it's like she has anxiety and cannot talk and prefers to stand in back of the room. And it's like, it's weird. And so I'm like, how can you talk to, 10,000 people and not bat an eye? And so I can't, because I'm the opposite. If there were 10,000 people there, I would like literally, my voice would start cracking and I'd be like, oh my God, I'm nervous wreck. And I'm not sure if I'm going to say everything correctly, like even doing an opening here. I got anxiety.
Well, some of the comedians talked about how they feel very in control on the stage. It's not a conversation.
Right.
They've honed their material, right?
And a lot of the times, the scariest things that could happen to us have happened mostly in the beginning of our careers. So it's almost kind of like a version of exposure therapy, where it's like, okay, we've gone on stage, we've had 100 people just look at us and not laugh. We've gone on stage, we've forgotten what we wanted to say, and we've gone through all of those motions, and then there's a point where we start to kind of get more comfortable. And yes, the control thing, I think not only having control, but rehearsing it a lot, doing it in a lot of different places, it gives us that sort of familiar comfort.
How prepared do you have to be doing your bit, right? And at any point, do you wing it, or is it pretty consistent with what you're going to say?
Yeah, at the risk of sounding corny, I want to say that it's very much like jazz. You have your sort of your bass rhythm. You know what I mean? You have your structure, but you can deviate from that as needed, depending on how you feel, depending on if there's hecklers in the audience, because sometimes a heckler is not necessarily a person. It's a drink falling. It's the microphone suddenly not working. It's a light going out. So you can get heckled by the sound of sirens. They just pass too close to the building, and it's like everyone heard it. You have to address it. So yeah, I mean, you come up there with a plan. You've written your bits, you've rehearsed them within an inch of their lives. But at any moment, you might need to riff. You might need to wing it. You might need to just say something that you weren't expecting to say.
Right. Being on stage, right, and being a comedian or just being on stage in general is like one thing. And then there's a social media aspect of basically what you do, which can cause extreme anxiety depending on, who's on your social media, So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two subjects of the film who I think are really talented at social media. I am not as talented at social media as I am at comedy. But yeah, social media, it's become like a strangely baked in thing to the whole comedy industry. So we all have to, it used to be it cuts the middleman out of us, reaching our audiences. And so, yes, you're going to have what we would say are haters, on your page. Most of the time that doesn't happen. Most of the time people who come across your stuff usually have come across it because they looked you up or because somebody said, hey, I think you would like this video and stuff like that. So, luckily I feel like for me, most of my interactions have been positive. There have been, of course, every now and then there's just somebody but it's really hard to tell who's a person and who's a bot these days,
Yes.
But also the sort of the phenomenon of a troll, I guess you could say. The social media is their audience. Them leaving a hateful or provocative statement in your comments is them doing their act. And so in a way, me reacting badly to them is giving them what they want. So I've learned to either ignore or just block a lot of those people.
Right. And then for you, in dealing with a lot of the comedians, which in some respects, like you would assume that they're all funny, like in normal like life or whatever. What was some of the things that you dealt with? I mean, I'm not saying you're not normal.
No. We aren't. We aren't. That's an okay
I
statement.
mean, to imply that. But what did you find? Because like we all look at comedians and we're like, oh, like they're so funny, and then behind the scenes they're very introverted, or maybe they're miserable. I don't know, but like,
Yeah.
what did you find?
Well, I have to say, off camera, they were funny, maybe in a slightly different way, more self-deprecating. I was always very conscious of making sure that they were okay, and if anxiety was something that they were dealing with in the moments when we were filming or preparing to film, it was I just wanted to make sure that they were okay and comfortable with what we were doing, and that they had a say in it. So I would say that they're all funny, on stage and off, and all a pleasure to work with, really a pleasure to work with. I mean, they were all very, very much handpicked. There had to be people who I really liked. Who I felt a connection to their comedy. I thought that I felt were funny, and all, of course, who had, they all had to have anxiety and do material about it. But yeah, they were funny off stage and on.
That's awesome. So, where can people see your film? It's been shown already?
This is our third festival.
Okay.
There are many more festivals to come that will be
But here in Sedona?
here in Sedona.
Yes.
I'm sorry, here in Sedona. The film will be screening today at 4 p.m. I believe that is sold out. It's the small theater. And then again on Friday at 10:10 at Harkins 2.
Awesome.
And I think there are still seats left for that.
Okay. And is there a website or Instagram page or anything like that people can
Yes,
check it out?
It's Anxiety Club Movie for everything.
All right. All right. So I don't have anxiety right this second. I could next up, but
Good for you.
for now we're good, and you guys good. You seem very good.
We're great.
Yeah.
Awesome. And you're going to have to come back. I know you were here with your wife for Baby Moon.
Yes,
which
many
is
years ago.
Yes, and now you have two. So that causes enough anxiety.
Yes, it does.
So bless you for doing that. But please come back again. Please come back. And don't forget to get tickets to the Anxiety Club. And we will be back in just a few minutes with some more interviews with filmmakers. So stay with us.